this is my submission for the tech card challenge for the Houdini utility. For my HDA, we can assign multiple groups with the one Houdini digital asset node. So this is the help that I'm going to provide, but let's just take a look at it with the basic setup. So what I have here is just a shader ball which by default already has our groups. So what I'm going to do is add my multi-groups node, enter it, and it takes use of the viewer state. So just go ahead and enter the viewer state, just press enter. Once you're inside it, we can then cycle between all of the types of selection, points, vertices, edges, and the primitives, and we can start assigning some groups. So I'm going to turn off this. So let's say I want to add some edge groups, select the edges that I want to assign, and then press F. It's going to basically create automatically group and assign to it. And let's say I want to update my current group. I just basically just press another selection and press F again. It's going to update the base group like that. If I want to selection to be a new group, I press G. So G is going to take the group name and get the basically the number of which this group is and assign to it at the end of it. Let's say I want to new name, and if I press in new name, let's say I select another one, press G again, then the new name is going to be basically, since this is a group tree, it's going to assign group a new name with the tree at the end of it, like that. So let's say these are edge groups I want. Let's say I want also some point groups. So I just go with the hotkeys or with the right mouse button, select the points, and let's say I want to get this group only. So let's go ahead to the point group tab, press F. We have our single point for our group like that. And also we can do it with the vertices, but what's cool about this is these poly groups, which is a little bit more powerful selection options. So let's go ahead and go to the primitive selection. And let's select this primitive one and let's press F like that. And there's a couple of options. So this actually is based off of a group expand node. So let's say I want to select all of this shader where based off the normal angle. So with the Houdini, with this tool, we can interactively see the selection. So what I'm going to do is start by clicking by scrolling my mouse. It's going to start basically scroll my mouse to start adding some values to the step value for this node, like that. You can see we can interactively inside the viewer, inside the scene viewer, see the selection like that. Let's say I want to select maybe something like this. Just press on it. You can see it's going to basically assign this a group. You can see it basically automatically is copying these values inside the group, and based off of this group name, it takes the primitive selection from it and displays it inside the viewport. But let's say I want to select all of these based off of normal, so basically just these. So what I'm going to do is put down a step to 0. I'm going to press on flood fill connected geometry and restrict by normal. You can see by default 45 degrees is basically ideal for us to select only these. So before I select, I'm going to drop the selection. Just press outside the geometry left mouse button. It's going to clean out our current base group, and then I'm going to take a look at it. This looks good. Press on it, and now we have selected entire outside of this shader ball just by assigning one group. And let's say I want to assign maybe more of it, also include these. What I'm going to do is actually press Ctrl and a middle mouse button, and then I can drag the normal inside the viewport. So let's say I want to maybe 100 degrees. You can see now we are actually going to start select more of these, and then just press on it, clear or whatever, press on it like that. Let's say I'm happy with this group. I'm going to press G. By default, it's going to copy the same selection side also inside here, but let's drop it and select maybe something inside here. So I want maybe little different, smaller normal selection like that. like that, and this looks good. And then I can just exit my viewer state, and then let's take a look at our groups. So there was some groups before that, so actually let's delete all of the groups. Let's just get our group that we assigned, which is 2 groups, like that. You can see in the viewport we have these groups. Let's go to the point groups. We did assign 1 point group, which is just this one. Make sure you have point selection like that. Also some edge groups, which is these 3 edge groups like that. So we have assigned also vertex group, but these do not show very well inside the viewport. But you can also assign those also vertex groups. And a couple of more things, we can also convert these to the attribute, and then after the attribute we can either keep the groups and the attribute, or also delete the groups that we created and keep just the attribute. And the attribute is going to be generated based off of name, so the attribute name is going to be whatever we have this inside parameter, and it's going to be a string attribute, and its string is going to basically just store the group's names as a value of it. So we can also just reference the group that we have selected for the points and polys by the string attribute value inside that primitive or point. So that's that. And so one more thing is the option for us to change the drag ratio, since there's many different displays and you may like bigger or smaller drag ratio, more precise. So what you can do is actually make sure you have exited your viewer state. Let's say I want to smaller drag ratio. Let's go ahead and very small, and let's enter back our viewer state, and let's control and middle click. Now my drag ratio is really slow. It's basically a multiplier for the drag ratio, like that. So just exit, and it's going to update only when we enter it. So since it's not really a parameter that's going to be changed a lot, we just check it when we enter the viewer state. And now I change it back to the 1.5, and it's for me it's precise enough. And one last thing I wanted to show is this dynamic selection is actually going to happen only when we have either one of these float fill the steps or the restrict by normal active. So if these values are at 0, basically turn off, or steps are at 0, it's going to default back to the default selection of the kind of Houdini style. So we can still use our poly loops and all of that, like that. And then we press F. It's going to copy in the literal section of basically every polygon, like that. But when we have started giving some step values, you can see it's going to start automatically enter the dynamic selection like that. So that's one thing to note, but I think I covered most of it. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.